Welcome to Word on the Street number 4. I'm Zach Fennie, singer-songwriter. I have a very special guest with me, someone I've known my entire life. Joel 1, the only Joel Fennie.
What's up, man?
Nothing, man. I'm just recording a vlog for this week for internet content.
A vlog.
Yeah, it's like a blog, but with a V instead of it, because we're recording it.
Did you come up with that term?
I did, actually. No one believes me.
I don't believe
I stupidly didn't get a patent on it. We're going to talk to Joel about a lot of topics this week. He's been a very active member in the music industry, music scene for going on 20 years this year, actually.
You're making me sound old, but I did that to myself.
Yeah.
Like revealing that fact to you. But yeah, I started playing, in a band back around this time in 1999.
That's a long time ago.
No.
I mean, that's 4/5 of my life ago.
It's not my fault you're little.
Yeah, that's true. It's my father's fault. Want to give a quick recap on the things I've been up to this week, which was not a lot.
You played the Saint.
Actually, I did not play the Saint.
They canceled you?
We sort of mutually canceled.
That's not a good sign.
No.
I'm tired of you.
Yeah. Who knows? I got 2 more gigs there, but I may never play there again. Well, the weather was so poor that night, and they had very few covers. It's January. That's kind of the way these go right now. And they said you could come in if you want. We could, it's like
it's nice.
Yeah.
The Saint. I've never been there before. It's in St. Helena, or is it in Napa?
It's in St. Helena.
Okay. What's the vibe like there?
It's really cool. I like playing there a lot, actually. It's fancy, but it's casual at the same time. Like, you don't feel like intimidated going into it.
Is there like a stage, or are you like kind of in the corner? Like
I'm in a
corner. On the corner.
Yeah. I'm sort of next to the door a little bit as you come in.
Is it like background music, or can you have like a band in there?
I think I know they've had like duos and trios before. I don't know if they've had a full band in there. It's kind of small for that.
That sounds good for you.
But no, it's less like background music. People are pretty attentive there. I mean, if I'm doing my job right, ideally.
It's just nice that there's places to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, besides that and a lot of schoolwork.
You're back in school?
Yeah, I've been back in school for almost not in a month. A few weeks now.
How's that going?
It's fine. I'm just really excited to be done with it. But I like my classes. They're interesting. Well, some of them. My political science class is pretty interesting.
Poli-sci.
Yeah, poli-sci. I like my teacher. He reminds me of like Dad or Uncle Dana, but in a good way. Not.
So like.
Oh, I hope none of them watch this.
Trump supporting?
No, I don't think so. But kind of blue collar. I would have said more middle ground. But I don't know. He reminds me like if they had like liberal qualities about them. But yeah, I mean that's I'm in a bunch of voice things. I'm in applied voice, and I'm in men's chorale there too, so I sing a lot there, and I sing a lot outside too, so I'm getting a lot of singing in.
That's good. I heard based on your vlog last week that you sang for about 800 hours in a period of like 3 days,
give or take. Yeah,
I'm surprised you're even able to talk right now.
It was difficult for a few days. I've been sucking down on a lot of hot water with honey and lemon. That's like my drink of choice. I actually went out and bought a thermos just so I could take it with me to where I went, because I played at, bless their hearts, the Saint. They didn't have hot water there. I guess they had a kettle, but it was someone else's, and they took it home. And
that sucks.
Yeah,
it's very important for you as a singer to keep your voice, active and able to work.
Yeah, well, I feel pretty good about it now. I got a lot of gigs coming up in the next couple of weeks too, so it's
at the Saint.
A couple at the Saint. At least one at the Saint.
What else you got coming up? Got anything big?
Yeah, I do have a big thing actually.
You're playing the Valentine's thing right over
a week from today.
Yeah.
Oh no, a week from tomorrow. Today's Monday.
What do you call it? The Mavericks?
Yeah.
Like Mark Cuban in Dallas, Dirk and.
Yeah, the Dallas Mavericks.
Luka Doncic and now Kristaps Porzingis.
Joel doesn't like basketball at all. He talks a lot of crap about it. how it's the most boring sport out there, and it's incredibly difficult to follow. But the Valentine Mavericks. So I've been doing these shows. We were calling them the Valley Mavericks, where we sort of assorted different solo acts from different genres. Like
It's not a basketball team.
it's not a basketball team.
Okay.
We did
You
two.
did one of these before? There was the Mavericks thing? Or
I did two of them. Two of them. One in July last year and one in October.
I think I went to the one in October.
I think you went to the one in July too. You saw Zach Freitas and Moss, didn't you?
I did.
That was you were at the July one.
Okay, I didn't know you were calling it the Mavericks show.
That was the first. That was the first Valley Mavericks. Then we had Return of the Valley Mavericks. Now we're doing
Revenge of the Mavericks.
No, now we're doing
the last Mavericks.
We'll get there eventually. But now we're doing the Valentine Mavericks because it's Valentine's Day theme. And then I was thinking, the Mavericks Strike Back. Yeah, exactly. Fellowship of the Mavericks. Switch it up a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Zach Fennie and the Sorcerer's Maverick.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, that's next Tuesday at the Blue Note. I got
What time's that start?
It starts at 6:30. They moved the time up.
Really?
Yeah, they were doing 7. Now
is
it's 6:30.
Is it a free show or is it
Free for Napa locals. It's tickets are $10, I think, for people from out of town.
So if you're out of town, stay home.
Please don't. No, it's gonna be really cool. The people I have on that show, I've personally seen or heard all their music, and I've worked with them all before. But something I'm sort of trying to showcase is, at least with 2 of them, are they work in the wine industry, and they both have full-time jobs, management positions, booking positions.
One of them works at the Jam Cellars, right?
Yeah, that's Owen Ridings, and he's at a rock band called the Hot Dark, which I got the pleasure of singing for a couple weeks ago at Jam Cellars, and it was a really cool show. I really enjoyed their music a lot. And that's not. I'm not even lying. I was genuinely into it. Yeah. What kind of rock would I say?
Yeah. Indie rock? Was it hardcore?
Yeah, it was indie. It was like indie with a punk vibe.
Really?
Yeah, it was cool. I'm excited to. I actually missed him playing solo acoustic, but he did sing and play guitar at that show.
And your show's acoustic.
Yeah, this show will be acoustic. And then I've got Grace Coyne. She works at Tank Garage Winery.
That's another place I haven't been to, but I've heard a lot about.
That's a cool place for solo art. They do bands outside in the patio in the summer, I think, but inside it's kind of small.
You've played there a couple times, right?
I think 2 or 3.
I think Surf has played there.
Yeah, Piper's played there. A lot of people have played there. Clark.
So it's coming up.
Yeah, coming up. They were just doing them for the summer, the speakeasy events, but then they started doing them all year round.
I speak hard.
Well, I guess that's why you haven't been to them. They won't let you in.
That's right. I'm too loud.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's going on in my corner right now. I got some stuff I can't talk about.
Of course, because you're very secretive, and all of your things are so magnanimous that the world can't know yet, because it would ruin the surprise.
That's absolutely right. I'm glad you understand.
Yeah, not even I know what he's talking about.
Yeah. Actually, I can talk about one thing. It's sort of in the distance.
Nobody cares.
Okay. Never mind. We'll just move on to you.
Go ahead. What's your big announcement?
No.
See, one of the things that you'll notice is different about this particular interview is that I can give him shit because I'm the older brother, and that's what we do.
It's just sort of the established.
Right, Robert Bradley?
Tag him in this video.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
Bobby.
Bobby the Bobcat, 1995, is still alive. Bradley. That was his full name in my phone for a while.
I see that.
Yeah. So I want to start with your birth. The wonderful year of 1984.
Yes, it's timely because this week is the anniversary of my birth.
The 35th one.
That's right.
That's crazy. I didn't think you would ever get that old.
I didn't think that I would get... Well, actually, I had hoped I would get this old. But I don't feel... I think you could talk to any of us older folks in the scene. That we don't... You feel as young as you act or whatever. And I'm an adult. I have a real job and all that stuff. But I still... Going to shows is my favorite thing to do. Playing music. I'm still listening to punk rock and hardcore and all the stuff that I've always grown up listening to, and I watch cartoons and pro wrestling, and it's all good.
That's the dream right there. I feel like
So the year of my birth. What do you want to know about it?
So you were born. You came out the same year that a lot of legends did. Ghostbusters, The Terminator, albums Purple Rain, Born in the USA. All those things came out in 1984, and you were also born that year. Do you attribute their success to have any correlation with your birth?
Well, obviously. You know what? This is one of the major criticisms that I have of your little vlog cast is that you have your phone on. My phone has also buzzed me about 3 times, but it's on silent and nobody knows. Okay. And so the year of my birth, yes, it was a very important year, 1984. I remember it well. It was the year George Orwell predicted. You know.
Yeah, it was so important they made a book about it.
Right. Yeah.
Before it came out.
Exactly. It was a big year. You forgot Beverly Hills Cop also, I believe, came out in 1984.
How can I forget that?
But you mentioned 2 albums, Born to Run, which of course is a classic that I've never listened to once in my life, and Purple Rain, which is a great record. But the most important thing that happened in 1984 was the creation of the greatest cinematic achievement of our time, Ghostbusters, which, if anyone is anyone who follows the internet, and
is that the one with the girls?
You're not under a rock, you would have seen that in 2020, next year, we're going to have another Ghostbusters film, which I'm very excited about. But other than that, Ghostbusters and me are probably the greatest achievements of the year 1984.
That's fair. I feel like that's a fair assumption. I can't think of anything else that tops that.
Well, you weren't around.
Well, that's true. What was it like following the scene in the 90s and the 2000s when you were like in high school and beyond? And how is it different than it is today?
Following the scene. Well, when I was in high school, I started going to shows. And Napa had...
Like burlesque shows?
Well, I wish. That didn't happen until we played at Toots Tavern and we brought Dad.
3 years ago.
Yeah, for his birthday. Burlesque show. No, in high school, the Napa scene... back then in particular was, you want to get that? Was sort of non-existent. That's probably what's been buzzing me too. There was bands back then, but it was few and far between in Napa. There was nowhere to play. Like that's why I was asking you about the Saint and Tank Garage and stuff, because that kind of stuff didn't really exist. We had shows at a little church over. Not downtown, down somewhere sort of by where Jamie lives. I don't even know the street, but I saw a show there, like a punk rock band called Bumble. And then at the Boys and Girls Club down that way, I saw Fevered Pitch and 26 Miles Per Hour and stuff. But there wasn't like a scene in Napa. And what sort of drove me out of Napa, quote unquote, was experimenting and seeing some of the bands from the Bay Area. And that scene was the greatest time of my life. It was a legit actual scene of bands. You know, they were younger than I am now, but they were in their early 20s and they were just like pushing the envelope of music and stuff, and they really cultivated a scene in the Bay Area, in Oakland and San Francisco, where kids would come and kids would have fun, and it was a great time to be a fan of music. Here in Napa, you know, being in Napa is a little disconnected from that scene, and I had to drive, you know, to go to these places. But I tried to start a band, or I joined a band, and we played some shows around here in Sonoma. There was a place called The Shop. You ever been to The Shop?
I don't know if I've been. If I was pretty young, I think. I don't think it's around anymore, right?
I'm not sure. I don't think so either. I feel like you would have known about it.
Yeah.
Some of your friends who play around now would know about it. But that was like the only... And the American Legion Hall. Now I'm thinking of all the different places that we did play in.
American Legion Hall.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yes.
That was horrible.
I imagine.
It's a real dump, and it was terrible. And you know, for all you kids, you save Gabes and Mosses playing at a nice place like Pacific Street. You don't know what it's like to play at the American Legion Hall. That's why I left, and I didn't leave, but I went to the Bay Area. That's where all the good bands were. Well, not to say that the bands I mentioned weren't good, but the bands that I attracted myself to were from the Bay Area.
That's fair, yeah. So you were involved with a band at the time that kind of got you into the scene out there and sort of inspired you to play drums in your own band after a while, right?
That's true. The band that I attached myself to, literally, was a band called Locale AM, who...
They're actually right here. That's why he attached themselves to just off screen.
No, they were great guys, and I I had gone to many of their shows, a lot of their shows, and it was really, like I say, the introduction to the music scene to me. And going to their gigs, I sort of befriended them a little bit, and there came a time where I didn't have someone to ride to the gig with, to the show. And so I having known them a little bit, the band I was in Napa, I mentioned, we played at the shop. I had booked Locale M to play at the shop. So I had Eric and Isa and a couple of the guys' numbers, and I just called them and I was like, hey, could I ride to the show with you guys tonight? It was out in like Pacifica or somewhere. It was kind of a trek. And they're like, yeah, sure. I had a van, sort of like I have now, and I was able to I was able to bring the guys, you know, and other people to the gig with us. And basically after that time, I just started going to the gigs with them forever. And I started hanging out with them all the time, going to their practices, and seeing how, you know, they really ran things. And this was a band that ultimately got offers from major record labels. They played South by Southwest. They did a lot of really interesting things that I was sort of like a fly on the wall for.
Yeah,
and it was great.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really cool experience to have as a teenager.
Yeah, it was. I look back on it very fondly, and I don't think that I would be the person I am today if it wasn't for those experiences, being able to do all that fun stuff and not really have the responsibility of being in the band, you know, and the sort of the stress of that and whatever. But I got to be there for everything.
That's super cool. So after that, you were in your own band for a while, and you were kind of making moves out there. You were playing big shows. You opened for big acts. You played Warped Tour at least 1 year. How many years did you play Warped Tour?
I want to say 2. It might have actually been 3, but it was definitely 2. We did it once with our original singer, and then we did it with Cole.
And your band was called?
Once Over. Oh, excuse me. And that started because Locale AM sort of inspired me to do the thing. I had got together with my friend Justin, who some of you may know from the Iron Heart from Once Over. We were in a band previously, the band I had just spoken about, and he was doing a project with some new guys, and they needed a drummer, and I was really tied in with the Locale AM deal. But at the same time, like, being there with them made me sort of like, I was itching to play.
Yeah.
So I went and I quit being their roadie or their sixth man, whatever you want to call it, to go like focus on Once Over. I quit literally like a month before Locale AM was going on tour with RX Bandits, like
man,
cross country tour that I missed. But it was, you know, that's one of my biggest regrets. But at the same time, it launched me into Once Over, and that was a great experience in and of itself, because Napa was not really popping then, and I had all these connections and friends that I'd met through the Locale AM scene, so I got to bring Once Over to the East Bay Area scene and sort of infiltrate that, and people liked us. Like, we had fans and stuff, and we fit in with the scene. We were a little bit different than the other bands, but those bands inspired me and inspired us, and we got to live that sort of, I would call it a dream. We played, you know, at Slim's a couple of times, opened for the matches at Slim's. We opened for Facing New York at Slim's. We played at this venue that doesn't exist anymore that was the best venue ever, called iMusicast, and any L3 people would know all about that. And then obviously, like, the big shows, we opened for Journey.
That's just casually throwing that out there.
I you know, it wasn't like we opened for Journey today, and it wasn't like we opened for Journey in like 1985. We opened for Journey in like 2003 or something, or 2004, when they were sort of at the lowest of their popularity.
Just before Don't Stop Believin' started becoming a meme and coming back.
Basically, yeah. I think they had the Asian guy. I think he's Asian, who's their singer now, the guy they discovered on YouTube. But I think they had just got him. Like, they didn't have their, you know, Journey revolution yet. But it was still a big show, and it was fun. And I can say that now forever. I opened for Journey. Hey, look at me.
That's absolutely. That's something you can hold on. That's an accolade you can hold on to forever.
And those Warp Tours, by the way, were like peak Warp Tour years.
Yeah.
The one year we played, there was a Drive-Thru Records stage. I don't even know. Are you familiar with Drive-Thru Records?
I know some of the bands on Drive-Thru Records.
So that year, Counterfeit played, which is a band you only know because I told you about them, but nobody knows about them.
I mean, that's a lot of bands I know
They're,
about.
well, right, but epic, awesome emo band Counterfeit. But also that year, Glassjaw played, RX Bandits played, Newfound Glory played,
And you played?
and we played. The following year that we played, another Murder.
You get to see them? Well,
Oh yeah, we got to see them. A lot of the bands we got to watch from the side stage or watch, from back behind the stage. The second year, you might be more interested in this, was Taking Back Sunday,
ooh.
Coheed and Cambria,
What?
and like the Matches played. Newfound Glory played again, but the Used I think was on that. Like it
I've
was
seen
like
Newfound Glory play Warped
it was
Tour.
it was peak emo time. It was in your mind probably the best time to be alive.
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah,
Just like that Newfound Glory song.
right. Those were really good times, and we put out one full length album. Which we worked with some cool people, and we put out an EP, which is my favorite thing.
Yeah, the EP, the songs on that were great. I mean, the songs on the full length album were really good too, but there's something about the rawness of the EP that I think was really cool.
Yeah, that EP we recorded in Petaluma. It's called Falling from Stories, and it's not available anywhere.
So don't go looking for it.
I'm gonna try to put it on Spotify because our full length album's on there, and I think I can figure out how to do that. We recorded it in Petaluma at this really kind of trashy studio, and it was fun. The guy was like clearly on drugs, and I don't maybe he wasn't. He was just a weird guy. But it was those songs we had worked on actually with Eric. He helped us sort of mold some of those songs, and this guy, he really just let us do whatever the fuck we wanted to do. Like, he was telling us that was a good take, bad take, whatever, but he wasn't like trying to produce us. So that record was like, out of any record I've ever done with any band, the most us that there was.
That's cool. That's awesome. And then, so after Once Over, you sort of took a bit of a break from music for a couple years, but then you sort of reemerged in the early 2010s with a group of the same people you were in the band with previously, but you called yourself something different.
Yeah, Once Over broke up, and it was sort of more of a fizzle out kind of thing.
Yeah.
I left the band, and they kept going for a little bit, but they just kind of fizzled out. And that was, I think, in 2006. A couple years later, I reconvened with, again, Justin. Justin is sort of like the Lennon to my McCartney or whatever. We
That's
just
so romantic.
We've always played together, and I have a feeling that we will always play together in some capacity. But we got together again with the singer and the bass player we were playing with at the time. We did another project for about a year in 2008, 2009. Nothing really came of it. And then, there was another break. And I want to say it was late 2012 when Justin and I started jamming again out at his house.
This was after Invisible Monsters had emerged on the scene, and
Who's that?
the greatest band to ever come out of the Napa Valley.
Didn't they have a really good drummer who used to, he was mysterious and he had a mask on?
Yeah, there was El Baterista Desconocido. That might be him texting me right now, actually, for just talking about him. He's probably watching.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that guy, but as soon as he left the band, you guys basically just fizzled.
You're just calling Alex out now.
Who?
Sorry, Alex.
It's lit, bro. But yeah, the Ironheart started as a project, not as a band. That wasn't the idea. Justin was in school at the time, learning film, basically, and a project that was given to him was he had to make a documentary about something, and him being with a background in music, he made his documentary on the writing, recording, the whole process of making a song. And so we together were working on stuff, and we couldn't, the two of us, we believe it or not, we're not great singers. and we were having a hard time finding a vocalist. So
I was right here the whole time.
well, go back and listen to some of your 2012 tapes compared to now, and you'll see why we didn't really consider you when you were in your
Hey, that's saying I sound better now.
pubescent state. Yes, you do. You heard it here first. But yeah, the project. So we ended up calling Tom. Tom was the bass player for Once Over. He was a little bit older than us in Once Over, and I don't think he ever really loved the music that Once Over did. Once Over was kind of a pop punk band, and Tom was always a guitar player, and we had him playing bass in Once Over. And he's a great guitar player, and he's into blues, and he was into metal, like Lamb of God type of stuff. He's a really talented guy. He went and played, or he went to school down at the Music Institute down in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And he's a very talented guy, and
He's a very funny guy too.
He's a very funny guy. He's the funniest guy I probably ever met. But he wasn't playing with anyone, and he had a couple songs written, and he brought them to us, and we kind of molded them. One of them was the song "Too Lost," which was the song that we focused on. And
That's a good one.
Became a staple of the Ironheart set.
That's the that was like the it had like a drill, like kind of a drilling sound in the bridge, right? I don't know if I'm describing that correctly.
Maybe it's been a while since I heard that. We recorded it a couple times.
I will pick you up.
That's the one.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
So we finished molding that song. We went into the studio to record it while Justin was filming everything. And we actually ended up doing 3 songs. We did like a little 3-song demo. And we didn't have a name or anything like that.
With the ham sandwiches for a minute.
That's what we wrote on the CD. But that year was 2013. It was like springtime, early 2013. And that was, if any of you napkins remember, the first Bottle Rock. And
that was so long ago now.
I know, right? It's been a while. And we had this 3-song demo, and Justin got some connections in town, and I don't want to say we shopped the demo, but somehow the demo got in the hands of the Bottle Rock producers or whatever at the time, not the people who run it now. And if you remember, that year was a big year. Do you remember that year was supposed to be like 5 days, and it was like all
it was crazy.
What ended up happening?
Started a Wednesday.
Right, yeah, Wednesday. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis they did like a special night that night, but the second day, Thursday, what ended up happening was, that was awesome. But the band Further, which is like a Grateful Dead band, one of the guys in Further, I think the main guy, like had fallen on stage like the week before or something and like broke his hip or something.
Oh my God.
And they had to cancel their set for Bottle Rock. So they had to shift the lineup around, and the Avett Brothers ended up headlining that day, but it opened up time magically on this Thursday afternoon at Bottle Rock. And so like I say, we sort of shopped our demo, if you want to say. It got put in the right hands at the right time, and they asked us, do you guys want to do a 25-minute set? And we were like, well, of course. And then, this was like literally probably weeks, maybe a month before Bottle Rock was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to come up with, we had 3 songs, and we needed to come up with 25 minutes worth of material. And that was
when a challenge like that comes around, though, you can't just say no to it.
Well, right. And even if we couldn't do it, how are we going to say no to playing a huge festival? We all grew up in Napa, and there was nothing like this ever in Napa before. And to have this happening and to be able to be a part of it was insane. And the people who ran it, God bless them, they basically, the floodgates were open to us at that Bottle Rock. You remember, right?
I do, yeah.
Did you get a wristband that year from us?
I don't know. Yeah, I got a wristband, I'm pretty sure. I definitely got in. It might have been a 1-day pass, actually. I don't know for a fact. But I definitely got in to see Primus, and I remember being in the front row for Primus with Robert.
I remember that too.
And we were squished up
against... Where was I?
You were on the side of the stage. Watching Primus, and Robert and I are being crushed up behind thousands of people.
And to put it in perspective, like I say, I hadn't played music on a professional level
in like 5 years.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we're playing one show, and it's this giant festival. And like I say, the promoters, God bless them, the wristbands that they had that first year were basically like, magic tickets that got you anywhere you wanted for the whole festival. It wasn't just the day that we played. And they had a whole bar backstage that was like, no matter what you wanted to drink, all free, come and get it. And at the time, I lived like a block away from Bottle Rock.
Oh my God.
I would just like all the days I was going like, oh, let's go see. Is that Bad Religion I hear right now? There's Jane's Addiction. Oh, this is cool. I'm gonna go have a drink. Oh, I'm just gonna cruise by. I felt like I was in Wayne's World, like my backstage pass. Oh, it was
your first time playing a show.
Yeah, it was awesome. For a first show, and we didn't. Did you see us?
I know. I was working
you
at
went
the
to work
time.
or something, right? So
Yeah.
you missed it. I was gonna say we didn't kill it, but we did good. We did fine, and that sort of catapulted us. We had a 25-minute set, and I was like, well, why don't we try to book some gigs? And that first year we ended up playing out in the Bay Area a bit, and we got to play at the Uptown in Napa. We opened for George Thorogood.
A couple times, right?
The first year, just George Thorogood, but through the career of the Ironheart, as we sort of established ourselves, the music got better, I think.
Yeah.
More concise, and we did a lot of cool stuff. We opened for the Dan Band and G Love and Special Sauce out there. We played Bottle Rock multiple times. We tried to to bring it back full circle to the scene. I knew that there was music going on. I know Surfin' James was playing back then, and your band, Invisible Monsters, and Alec Lee was coming up around that time.
Yeah.
And like there was music
Radio
happening.
Affect.
Yeah, Radio Affect. My new friend Moss and Alex. It's lit, bro.
I'm playing a show with him in April. Sorry to interrupt you.
Is he playing drums?
I think he might be playing bass.
I mean for you.
No, not for me. No, he has a math rock band up in Portland right now.
With Kevin, right?
Yeah,
and
with
Bruno,
Kevin.
the
Mhm.
Bruins.
I don't think Bruno's in it.
Oh,
Bruno's got his own stuff going on.
wow, that makes me sad.
But yeah, we're playing a show with them at a real venue.
That's lit, dude.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Ironheart, the other cool thing that we got to do, like I say, I was talking about the Napa scene. We were trying to help cultivate that, and there still wasn't that many venues at the time. There was Silos and there was City Winery. City Winery was not really prepared for rock music, but we tried some rock shows. We booked the Invisible Monsters on there and some other bands, and
that was a fun show. That Home for the Holidays thing that inspired
Sanho the Indian.
Yeah, that inspired me to do holiday shows the previous years.
Yeah, that was like I say, we were trying. Once Over sort of abandoned Napa, but the Ironheart, we tried our best to sort of embrace Napa, and I feel like if we were around today, we would probably be going over better in Napa.
You are around today.
Well, I mean, as a band.
Oh.
Like if the Ironheart was active now,
Yeah.
like I think that we would fit in better. I think the scene is stronger now.
Yeah, I would agree with
than
that.
it was then. Another thing, just on the Ironheart, we talked about Once Over and playing with the matches at Slim's. The Ironheart
Also played with matches at Slim's.
When the matches got back together for their reunion, I remember getting the email from Matt, the drummer for the matches, and he wanted us to open for them. And I could think of a million bands that probably should have had that spot, but somehow I think because John Devoto came out to watch us once, and he's like, yeah, they're pretty good. We got the spot, and that was one of the most fun shows I ever played, was at Slim's with the Ironheart with the matches.
That's awesome. I was there for that. I think I was running the merch booth for that show.
Yeah, our posters.
Yeah, that's what you had for sale. So I guess that relates to the next question I'm going to play. That was a great show. I want to know the best shows you've ever been to and have ever played.
Okay, I'm going to ask you that question too.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this.
Well, you should always be prepared when you're interviewing someone. You got to be on your toes.
That's fair.
The best shows, what do you want first? One I played or one I've been to?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I've been to many shows.
I know. That's probably going to be a harder one, I feel like.
I can narrow it down to maybe a few. The one that sticks out the most to me coincides with an Ironheart show. We were down in Los Angeles playing at the Viper Room in 2015. And my favorite band in the whole world, ever, number one, is Faith No More. A band I loved when I was in middle school and high school, and they broke up in 1997 before I was old enough to really sort of go to shows, so I never got to see them. They reunited in 2010, and I got to see them then, but they decided to put a record out in 2015, which was ridiculous, and it was amazing. But when you put records out and you're a band of some stature, you go on a promotional tour. And
Yeah.
they happened to be in Los Angeles that week that I was with the Ironheart at the Viper Room. They were playing Jimmy Kimmel Live. And I didn't get to go to that because it was in the early part of the evening. It was probably like at 6 or 7 o'clock. But I had seen they were doing a secret show on Facebook. They had announced they were doing a secret show at the Troubadour,
which when you just happen to be there.
I'm in town, and the Troubadour. Like we were in our hotel room, and I was like looking this up. I'm like, certainly the tickets sold out right away or whatever, and that's what it said on the internet was the tickets were sold out. And then I Googled like how far away is the Troubadour from where I am. It was literally like 3 blocks away. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna walk down there. The show doesn't start till midnight. I'm gonna walk down there and see if I can get in. There was no line. I walked right up to the ticket booth. I said, can I get a ticket? And she's like, yeah, $30 or whatever it was.
Damn.
And I was like, okay, here you go. And I walked right into the Troubadour, which is this tiny, tiny venue.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's packed, but there's like spot right in the front, and I fit right in the front. And I got to watch Faith No More, my favorite band of all time, like right in my face. They played like an hour and a half long set of all kinds of different songs. They were dressed casually, which they hadn't done since the 90s. Like when you see Faith No More,
suits,
they wear suits or they dress like priests. Yeah. They always dress in a way.
Yeah.
And this was just casual. And that was my number one favorite show. The other show that I'm thinking of, I'll just go with one because I think I'm being long-winded. The other one happened back in 2000, which is almost 20 years ago. This was the first time, actually the second time, I saw the Deftones, who are another one of my all-time favorite bands. They were playing at the Warfield in San Francisco. I was, I want to say 16 or something, and Dad drove me and my friend Brendan, my friend Brian, shout out to the Warfield to watch the Deftones, and we were, high school kids or whatever.
He drove you there, and what did he do? Well,
he went to the movies.
San Francisco?
He went to a movie theater and he watched the Kevin Bacon classic Hollow Man, which I've never seen, and he didn't have many great things to say about it. He's, Dad doesn't really like
movies.
But anyway, the Deftones, that was the reason we were going. But the opening band was another band that sort of changed my life in terms of music, and the opening band was Glassjaw. And it was Glassjaw touring on Everything You Want to Know About Silence. And to bring it back to Faith No More, before the show, in between bands, and after the show, they were playing Faith No More on the speaker. So it was like...
How perfect. I love when that happens.
It was like, those are two shows that stick out to me. And I could talk for hours about other shows. I've seen Refused. I've seen... all my favorite bands, Soundgarden, R.I.P. Chris Cornell. I got to see them, and Coheed and Cambria 1,000 times or whatever. But those are two that stick out. And then in terms of shows that I've played, I really liked playing with the Matches as the Ironheart. That was an excellent show because it was sold out, and like we were sort of at our peak form. And to sort of... I didn't even talk about this. Right after that show with the Matches, we went down to record at Dave Grohl's studio, which was another ridiculous experience. But that was the end of 2014, and that was, I would say, like right as the Ironheart was peaking creatively and as a band in terms of how we were playing. And we played Bottle Rock 2015, and like that whole era was like we were at our tip-top shape. And I think that show with the Matches was the start of that, and that Bottle Rock was like the end of that. So that was my favorite show with the Ironheart. Was the show at Slim's with the Matches. Just great memories. Got to meet up with old friends and have all kinds of cool people. And then my other favorite show with Once Over, also at Slim's, was opening for Facing New York.
It's this band.
That's that band. Facing New York. It was my friend Renee. He played keyboards in that band. It was his last show. And that was the original Facing New York lineup with Brandon, Omar, Eric, who's still in the band, Renee, and then our friend Matt, who has done big things. And I remember, for us, Once Over, we were probably at our peakish time too. That was 2005, I think. We were playing really well. And I got, being there with my friends who I kind of came up in the scene with, they all were local in beforehand, basically. And to see Renee sort of retire and be there, I got to go on stage and like play percussion for the last song. And that was one of my most fondest memories of playing a show. As another probably sold out show. It was awesome. So what about you? What's the best show you ever played?
That's a hard one. I think. Well, I think objectively, you've played cooler shows than I have. You've had a different experience in more of a rock setting, and you've had more years into it too.
You've made way more money than I have, though.
That's true. I can talk about the most profitable shows, but I don't think that'd be.
No.
Yeah,
But the most fun you've had on stage.
Man, I just had it. It was on the. Actually, this was recently. This is gonna sound maybe a little silly because it's a small venue, but I think it was the most fun I've had playing is because I got to play with a variety of people that night, and all of them are some of my favorite people to play with. And that was I played at Jam Cellars at the end of December, and it was the first time I sort of had like a real rock band behind me in a long time. And Joel played drums for that actually, and so did our friend James Yelkoy, Folklore.
I don't know if I remember this show.
You.
This was your best show?
Yeah, I had the most fun.
It's just
well, and then I played
that was a fun show, and to have Folklore there, having a bass player play with you, it made a big difference. I didn't realize that because I always think that we play fine when we play together.
Yeah.
But it's just guitar and drums, and it's lacking something. And I think the bass was key to that show. You also had your boy Gabe on that show, right?
Yeah, I had Gabe, and I had my friend
Limbo.
It's a secret. It was our friend Jess was on this show.
Oh, excuse me. I must have been confused.
Yeah, you must have been. People easily get that mistaken.
Wow.
One's a cat, one isn't. I understand they're easy to mix up, but
I'm sorry about that. Edit that part out.
It's fine. If anyone's watched it this far, they probably know already. It's like Spider-Man's secret identity. I had Jess and I had Gabe on that, and I played with Gabe a lot, and I played with Jess a handful of times. But it's funny, Jess is really inspiring because of her unnamed musical project, which has been very successful. And to see that coming out of Napa it's really cool to see.
So we are allowed to talk about that?
We can be vague with it.
I just I'm impressed with her sort of whole development of a character and still
same.
making music that she feels is honest and speaks for her.
Yeah, it's genuine her.
Being able to do it in a way, I don't want to compare it to like Slipknot or whatever, but like it's
Limbo, Slipknot.
It's the kind of thing where you have a gimmick.
Yeah.
If you can do it right, it's good, and I think she's doing some interesting things.
Yeah, me too, for sure. I have mad respect for her, and the fact that she's done it all on her own, and she's played some really cool shows. She's gotten a very good amount of plays on her stuff on the internet.
On what?
The internet, the thing. It's like real life, but worse.
Is that the place where you post all those funny pictures?
They're called memes, and they're not just a phase.
Memes.
Yeah, memes.
While you're talking memes, you told me the other day that you're killing it on Instagram, and I wanted to text you back, but I'll save it here for the public forum.
Oh boy.
Killing it on Instagram does not mean posting pictures that people look at. Killing it on Instagram would be getting a lot of people to be excited about you and your music, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like I'm doing a good job of both, honestly.
All I ever see is memes.
I got a good amount of engagement. I post, I don't know.
The memes you think help that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because first I enjoy them, but
I enjoy them too. I look at all of them.
But I was gonna say I like obviously I'm not on tour right now. I'm not in the
not
active development process of working on a record. I'm not in the recording stage. I've got plans. I got songs and I got ideas, but I'm not in the studio working on something every day. So as far as content goes, most of the stuff I'm doing right now is playing live shows and then trying to do stuff like this, getting more involved in my community and just bringing people together and shedding the spotlight on different people and different things that are going on. Because I don't know, I think the scene's really cool right now. I think there's a lot of cool stuff. Most of my friends are involved in it, so I figure that there's no better way to showcase it.
About the scene right now.
Yeah.
I agree with you, and I think that it's in a good place. But part of the problem with Napa, and this might sound like an old guy, and it might sound like I'm hating on the old guys, but I think the audience in Napa is not the right audience to really cultivate a true scene. And you guys are doing...
I understand what you mean.
You guys are doing as good as I think anyone could do under those circumstances, because you have different kinds of music and you all get together and you do well. Your shows here are the closest thing to like a true sort of scene I think that there is.
Yeah.
And this is when I was playing with Surf and James, the problem that I sort of foresaw, and I think I've even mentioned this in some of the Balanced Breakfast stuff, is I think that the audience in Napa is not the traditional audience that you would have a scene. The kids in Napa, and maybe it's because you guys are even older than kids now, but
what do you say?
Well, I'm saying like when I was involved in like the true good scenes,
Yeah.
it was the young people. It was like the high school kids and the just out of, and now all of us are older, but the place we play attracts adults. I don't really know how to quantify it, but there's something missing with the audience, and I think the shows that you do are the best. And I wish we had more shows like that, or that the shows that were put on at other venues would feel more like that. And I think the Napa Live Music Show was close to that, was pretty good, the way that they set that up. And
I think there's a lot of potential for better cool stuff with that in the future too.
But I just think as a scene, you guys, and you're doing it already, you need to band together and sort of figure out how to make it exciting. You know what I mean? Not just like, oh, okay, there's another show at the Blue Note and we got to do this, or there's another show at Jam Cellars and we're going to do this. Like, really sort of try to figure out how to make it exciting.
That's sort of something that Gabe and I have been working on recently. And I think we have sort of... We have plans to do kind of a cool show and a music video shoot in the future, and that's one of the ways I think...
Big T's not going to do it.
Not that music video. Why, did you ask him?
No. I just know.
Yeah.
I have,
but that
intuition about that.
That music video shoot, almost in its sense, was kind of a cool, different way of showing off. It was different kind of the scene. Similar friends were involved in it, but different kind of genre than the kind of stuff. Well, I don't know. I like our house shows too, because we can throw hip hop shows and we can throw things like that too.
You mix it all up. It's different.
Yeah. I think that's important, especially when your options are for music are limited in the sense that we're not in a big urban environment. Like, it's not San Francisco where there's there's 10 indie bands
and the
20 indie
the
bands.
population here is more well-to-do folks. It's a different it's winery types. It's more sort of prestigious even than sort of Bay Area little punk rock shows or whatever. So you're in a unique position of trying to build something that's interesting for the young people, but also attract the older types to still like your music.
Yeah.
So I think you're in a good spot. I just wanted to put that out there, that I think
that's kind of where I like
something lacking.
Doing shows like the Blue Note at the same time, because that's sort of a classier venue that appeals to, I don't want to call them out and say the older demographic, but people who like to sit down at shows.
Right.
Like,
that's a demographic that is here.
Yeah.
You're trying to cater to them, and you're trying to cater to other folks.
Yeah.
Youngsters, people your age.
It's the constant struggle of my life, is trying to figure out how to please both those audiences. Mm-hmm. Well, and hopefully, maybe, your friends are old, and people who go on the internet are young, so maybe this video will please both those audiences.
My friends are old?
Well, I think we're about probably in a good place to wrap up this episode. We've been going on for a while.
Yeah, can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
I am currently a free agent, not playing with any band, but I'm an observer of the bands here in town, and I've seen, I think, all of them or most of them, and I think I want everyone to challenge themselves, to challenge each other, to really work on your craft. Don't settle for wrong notes. Don't settle for sloppiness. Like, you guys as a scene can get it together and really push each other, I think, to make things happen. And you have to work when you're in a band, and when you're in a scene, you have to work together. You can be the greatest guitar player in the world, but if you can't work in the band that you're working in,
it's true.
Like,
what does it matter?
You want to play with each other. You want to push each other. And I think if there's anything that I can say as a observer from the outside, I would love to see the musicality and the whole game step up a little bit. And I think everyone's talented enough to do it. They just got to put in the time and really work on, like I say, honing their craft.
That's solid. I know. I think that's solid advice. That's a solid message to send out there.
Yeah, and Save Gabe put me on a track.
You heard it here first, folks. This has been Word on the Street number 4. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy, and we'll see you next time.